Ladies and gentlemen, today is Thursday, April 2nd, 2015. And this is the KNKL Show, episode 219, where normally we learn to be better artists. But today is Thoughtful Thursday, where we like to meditate upon our lives and think about the things we've done in the past, good and bad. And today we are going to be talking about a very special subject called designing an awful life. Aren't you guys excited for this subject? It's such a great subject. Such a great subject, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about that. But before we get into that, I do have a quick little side tangent to go into. For those of you who tuned in on Tuesday to watch me working on Tristana, I will let you know that I went ahead and did a little bit of color. I spruced it up a little bit, spruced up the place, because I knew I was going to be having company, aka you guys, visiting my DeviantArt page. So if you want to go check it out, just head on over to my DeviantArt. If you're watching on YouTube, the link to the pictures in the description. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get into this talk today. Designing an awful life. How are we going to do that? How are we going to design an awful life? And what is the point of designing an awful life? Because you might hear that and be like, Keenan, it's very negative. What is this, like some sick late April Fool's joke or something? No, this is a very, very serious topic. And it has to do with a little something that I've learned over the past few days. It's a very fun, creative technique, very fun mental game that you can play with yourself called inversion. Inversion. And that is, you know, you're an artist, right? Say you're an artist, you're just a human being, right? You're trying to make your way through life. You're a squirrel trying to get a nut. Whatever your philosophy on life is, you're trying to get someplace, right? And a lot of people oftentimes they get so caught up in their heads about like how they're going to do it. Like they know what they want to do. They know what they'd like to get, but they don't know exactly how they're going to get there. And I've actually found out a very, very cool way to find out how you're going to get somewhere by thinking of how you're not going to get there, by inverting, right? Thinking of all the ways that you could mess things up, all the ways that you could have you could be a terrible failure in business, a terrible failure in life, and a terrible failure with your health, in your relationships, and in your happiness. And basically, by going through those things, designing your awful life, you will then just invert it and do the opposite, and you'll have your answer. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So my main there's four areas of my life, four areas of everybody's life that I really feel that they like to have some sort of success in, right? And that is health. I'll go this way. Health, wealth, love, and happiness. Health, wealth, love, and happiness. Those are the four main areas that I feel that a lot of people really aspire to get something great in. And what we're going to do today is we're going to ask ourselves, how do we design an awful life in those four areas? So let's go ahead and start with health. Health. Okay. So many of you know I'm my own guy, living out on my own. I got my own apartment, but not too long ago, I was living with my parents, right? And luckily, growing up, my parents always were good influences on me for the most part in terms of eating healthy. And definitely, like, at my parents' place, it was like there was never anything really unhealthy to snack on. There was no like Cheetos, there was no Doritos, there was no Fritos, none of those Eatos. If there was Eatos at the end of any of those words or any of those brands, like they were not in the house. Like we had basically like almonds, we had vegetables, we had like, it was like so healthy it would make you sick, right? It was just crazy. You had we barely even had like cold cereal. Like we had honey bunches of oats. That was probably about as junky as the food got in there, you know. But everything else was like fruits, fresh fruits. We had stuff growing out in the back on the fence. We had grapes growing on the vine there. And you know, we just eat a lot of very, very good nutrient energy rich foods. And that kind of stuck with me. That stuck with me coming out here, right? Because when I first moved out, I was like, I can't wait to just eat whatever I want, right? I'm just gonna go buy like Captain Crunch. I'm gonna eat Captain Crunch every single meal of the day. And I'm just gonna like load up on all these sweets and candy, and like for dinner, it's like, oh man, I hate cooking. I'm just gonna like make some, I'm gonna get some of that little TV dinner stuff, just throw it in the microwave, whatever, right? And very quickly, I realized that that was not going to be a sustainable diet, right? Not only because it costs more. Here's the other thing, is that eating unhealthy and staying unhealthy is actually much more expensive, I've found, than actually going out and getting healthy stuff. And it's really weird how the world has become so almost like desensitized to people eating healthy. Like it's like weird to eat. Like it's weird to eat a vegetable. Like as you watch a guy like walking down the street with like a bag of potato chips, like nobody's gonna look at him. But if you see that same guy walking down the street with like a carrot or a cucumber, people will be like, oh, you got like a nice little carrot there. What you like Bugs Bunny or something? Like they'll think you're weird, right? And so I want you guys to understand that the world has conditioned us, first of all, to not necessarily be healthy, right? Because not only do you get to eat all the junk food, but then you get to, you got to buy all the medications to like lower your blood pressure and like get yourself like back to normal. But then that has a bunch of other side effects. And of course you can see how the spiral duplicates and duplicates and duplicates. Okay, so the first step of the awful life in health is to make sure that you don't buy your own food. Don't learn how to cook. Let's never learn how to cook. Never learn how to cook. And in case you're wondering, like I have my notebook here, right? And if you guys have a journal, right, like I've told you to do, told you to go out and get one, write in your journal. Don't look at my journal. It's private stuff. All right, so never learn how to cook. Never learn how to cook. Yeah, just stick with that cold cereal every day. Oh yeah, don't worry about working out either. You don't need to, especially if you sit in one place and work all day, right? As an artist or just anywhere where you have to sit down, don't worry about working out because that's not gonna be important. You're not gonna live long enough anyway. So don't work out either. Okay, so and I hope you can see where I'm going with this. So probably the most important things that I've found with staying healthy is just cooking your own food. Cook your own food and do light workouts. Like I'm not talking about like 2-3 hours a day. You don't need to be crazy. 20 minutes. I found that 20 minutes of just doing, even if you just do a couple pull-ups, like I got the little door gym thing, a couple pull-ups and a couple push-ups, right? And, or if you want to go for a little run. Or I live right next to the grocery store. I like to walk there and walk back, right? Just little things, right? So there we have inverted and created the awful life in health. Let's move on. Exactly. Like you guys in the comments are like, who works out? What's working out? What's this person walking down the street with a carrot, with a cucumber? Man, that person's weird. Consider it, guys. And we're actually going to move into that. We're going to move into something like that. This is actually a very, very serious thing. Okay, moving on. So next up, I find I'm talking about health. I'm over here like coughing. Right. I've been allergic. Like I went down to the puppy barn with my girl a couple of weeks ago. She was in town and we went down to see these cute little puppies. But I think that there's something in their fur or something that's really, really agitating to my sinuses, and my throat is still not completely recovered. Like I'm not sick, but I still feel that I got like some sort of terrible infection, or not infection, but like an allergic reaction to the cuteness. I think I'm allergic to cute things. So moving on. Health. Wealth. Let's talk about wealth. How would you have an awful life? How would you be a complete failure in wealth? All right. So let's see here. I'm going to use myself as a prime example. Prime example number one. So, and I'm going to relate it to artists because I'm guessing there's a lot of artists that watch this stuff here. Okay. So, the way to become a really awful artist is to, first of all, just stick with what you can get, right? The world is a harsh place, and it's not very rewarding for people that put themselves out there, right? Maybe you tried once, you tried to put yourself out there, you tried to get noticed, and nobody really cared. The world is just a terrible, terrible place. So what you should do instead is you should curl up, you should find a shell, right? You should find a shell, go curl up inside that shell, and never show yourself again, right? Because, you try once, never try again. That's a great thing to live by if you want to have an awful life. Never try more than once. Whatever job you're working at. I was working at the mall. Selling jeans. And I was a server at Olive Garden. And if you guys are in current jobs like that, fear not. Fear not, because there is a way out. But we're talking about, it's so hard for me to stay negative here. I'm really trying to stay negative. You should know that actually there is no way out of that. Olive Garden is actually a really good career. It's a really good career, and you should stay there. You might, one day become a manager, and then you can perfect that nice little Olive Garden manager smile where somehow they're able to talk to you, but they never actually open their mouth, and they just smile at you all the time. And you just wonder if you could just it's like a sticker. It's like a sticker. You like peel that smile off, and then you actually see it's like a mask that they wear, right? You can perfect that. And you know, working at the mall selling jeans, retail, that's a great career. Like, you should just stay there, because you know, you can make that company thousands of dollars, and they will give you I think my commission rate was like 3%. So basically that means that if I made $1,000 for that company, they would give me $30. And because I was working off a commission, I think the minimum wage was about, I think it was like $7.25 at the time where I was working at the mall. But because I got commission, they could legally pay their employees, including me, under minimum wage. So I was making $6.75, and this was in California, right? And another really great way to design an awful life in wealth is, again, just, you know, speaking of minimum wage, just wait for them to raise the minimum wage, right? You know, it's like, you want more money, just wait for them to raise the minimum, right? Because you're always going to be at the bottom where you really want to be, right? In an awful life, you want to stay at the bottom. Never really build a skill. Never build anything that will make you rise up above the crowd, that'll make somebody want to pick you out because you can do something differently. You don't even have to do it better than someone else. Like, you just have to do it differently. Somebody else can look at what you're doing and be like, hey, I like your style. This is specifically relating to artists, okay? So create something, you know, build your skill and stand out. And again, I'm really trying to say negative here. I feel like some of you might be getting confused about like what's actual advice and what's me being sarcastic. Shoot! Well, maybe that's the challenge for today. That's the challenge. I want you guys to see if you can figure out what's the actual advice and what's not. Okay, but that last part was real advice. Yes, you must do something different. You must differentiate yourself. You must stick out of the crowd, okay? Because you don't want to be stuck working at the mall. Okay, so another thing that you can do is, yeah, like I said, stay in that shell. Don't go to conventions. Don't talk to people. Don't talk to people from the industry. Don't look up people that you admire from Riot Games or from Blizzard Entertainment. Don't find out where they're going to be at and then show up there. Don't go to those conventions. Don't shake hands with them. Don't bring them something. Don't like put out, like make a little print and then sign it for them and give it to them. Don't tell them, whatever you do not tell them that they inspired you. Do not ever tell them that. Don't tell them they inspired you and that one day you're going to be working with them. Do not say that. And you will build a life of financial failure and fulfillment failure, because you'll never really be what you want. And then you will have an awful life. All right. Oh, yeah. And let's not forget the most important thing. If you want to create something for the world, you want to create a comic, you want to create a product, you want to market yourself, you want to start a Patreon, you want to do something on Skillshare, right? Just don't do that. It's not gonna it's not gonna work for you. Okay, don't do that stuff. It will lead to a non-awful life. Okay, so just stay in your shell. All right, moving on. I hope you guys are having fun with this. Oh no. All right. Okay, I'm just making sure everything's still going good. The stream appears to be freezing. I don't know what causes that. It might just be something with Twitch. All right. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting show. Okay, so this is basically you trying to pick out what's sarcastic and not. It's a game. Moving on to relationships. Let's talk about how to have an awful relationship. Okay, so first and foremost, what you want to do to have an awful relationship is you want to make sure that you never talk to that person, right? Never talk to them. Don't communicate. Don't be, and whatever you do, when you do communicate, when you absolutely have to, don't ever be honest. Don't tell them really what's going on. You know, they don't want to know that. Just play it up. Make yourself sound really cool, but never really be totally honest. Right? And because honesty is gonna lead to trust and vulnerability. You don't want to be vulnerable in a relationship. You don't, because then you could get hurt like you did in the past. Remember, try once and never again. Try once, if you get hurt, never again. Go back in the shell. And you know, don't get them gifts. Don't get them awesome gifts on their birthday. Like, you know, Valentine's Day. Don't get them awesome gifts on Valentine's Day. No, don't even do that. Just be like, baby, my love for you is all that you need, right? My love for you, like, never ever. Just rely on that. Just tell the person that you're with that your love is all that they need, right? And I'm not just talking about relationships with the opposite gender. I'm talking about in the family too. In the family, make sure that you never see them. Make sure you never see them, because they'll be fine on their own. Like, they got their own lives to deal with. Don't ever go over and visit mom and pops. Don't ever, hang out with your brothers. Don't go shooting at the shooting range with them, or go blow some stuff up in the back canyons with them. Don't go do that stuff. It's not good for bonding. Okay. So, I think that's about it. Yeah. So yeah. Rule number 1 for an awful relationship is no communication, no trust, and no honesty. Okay, so stick with that. And no gifts. That's probably the most important thing. No gifts. No gifts. Just say that, you being you is enough. You being you is enough. Your love is enough. Okay. All right. Happiness. Then we're gonna wrap everything up, bring it in together, and then we're gonna do question catapults. All right. All right. Happiness. Let's talk about how to have a really unhappy life. And I think that you guys, this is going to be touching on something that I talked about a couple weeks ago. And that is, oh yeah, always be jealous. That odd girl. That's a great, very, very good. That goes in with honesty. All right. So happiness, how to be really unfulfilled. The best way that I've found to be depressed is to know that you should do something, or know that you could do something. Know that you could do something, and even that it would turn out great if you did, and then still don't do it. Or just do less than you can, really. This was a whole nother talk that we had where I was talking about doing less than you can is the best way that I have found to get depressed ever. And you like my little pen here? I'm conducting my Thoughtful today. I'm conducting my thoughts. I'm like pulling them out because I'm not used to talking like this. All right. So yeah. Always do less than you can. Always figure out a way to just, get the same amount of reward. Get the same reward at the end, but just do a little less every day. Do a little less, little less, little less. And then you'll find that eventually you can get away with doing nothing. You can get away with doing nothing, and then eventually, maybe whoever you're working for will catch on. Maybe they won't. But why not take the chance? Because really, it's all about you, right? Don't worry about doing more than you get paid for. Don't worry about thinking of other ways to bring extra value. Your mentality basically is, if this is all they're going to pay me, then I'm not going to do anything else, right? If this is all they pay, then I'm not coming early, and I'm not staying late, and I'm not thinking of ways to improve and raise my value, right? And actually, I do want to talk to you about this, because does bring up an interesting, conflicting question. And that is, sometimes people do raise their value. Sometimes people do raise their value in the workplace, and then they still don't get compensated for it. Sometimes they really feel that they are working and raising their value to the point where they do deserve more, but they still don't get it. And this is real advice here. And that is when, because you got to realize that sometimes people will not. The world, this is the harsh reality right here. And this is real talk here. The world actually doesn't owe you anything. Nobody actually truly owes you anything. So if they are going to, right, if you raise your value and you're still doing more than you're getting paid for, that is good for you for 2 reasons, okay? But it can be bad in another reason. Okay. So the first thing is that if you're doing more than you get paid for, I truly believe that you're investing. You're investing in yourself, and you're investing in your future, right? Because you know that what you're doing is worth value. But then the second thing that is truly bad is that if you hang on to that for too long and you truly feel that you deserve more, and then you settle, you consciously create in your mind that this is all that I really deserve. Maybe I'm not worth that much. Maybe I actually do suck, right? So there's a weird dichotomy there. And there's a lot of nuances that can come from this information, right? And speaking of that, the last way before I go into questions is that if you want to have a terrible life, I'm going to give you one of the best pieces of advice, the best piece of advice I've ever given you, okay? And this is this. Okay, if you want to have a terrible life, basically, whatever I'm saying for you to do, and this is really going to throw you through a loop, whatever I'm telling you to do, you should do exactly everything that I say. you should do everything. Like if you hear like a motivational speaker or a philosopher or somebody telling you about a way that you should live your life, the number one way that I've found to have an awful life is to do exactly what they say. Do exactly what they say. And the reason why this happens is because somebody else's philosophy, somebody else's religion, you know, all of those things were developed by human beings, and they were developed by a person, and that philosophy worked really great for them, right? But that person is not you. You are not that person. So what I will say, going back to real talk, is that don't listen to everything that I say exactly, okay? I'm just trying to give you ideas, trying to give you philosophies and just things to kind of get your brain running. But really what I want you guys to do, if you guys want to have a good life, is to take all the advice that you get, take all the advice and ideas that you get, and basically adapt them and tailor them to say, hey, how would I take what I heard today? How would I take what this person said to me and now integrate it into my life or adapt it into my life to something that will work for me, right? This works for this person. And sometimes the things that other people do will work for you, but not all the time. You can get stuck in that. It's a very dangerous place to be because you might be doing exactly what this other person is doing, but you're not happy inside, or you don't feel as fulfilled, or, you know, and it's because you're trying to live out the life, you're trying to live out the values of somebody else. So don't do that, okay? Take everything that I say with a grain of salt, a big one, because, like, again, I don't consider myself a very renowned or, like, highly experienced motivational speaker. I'd like to be, and that's why I'm doing it right now, to get experience and practice. But really, it's very important that you guys understand that your life is your own. Nobody else is actually going to design your life for you. Nobody else is going to make a plan for you. But, well, actually, wait, no. Actually, they will. If you don't make a plan for yourself, this is actually one thing that is true. And yeah, basically, if you don't make a plan for yourself, you don't make a plan for what you want your life to be, somebody else is going to make a plan for you. And I have a good feeling that you're not going to like the plan that somebody else comes up for you. Because basically, if you're not making your own plan, you're already living the plan of somebody else's. So, yeah, just consider that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know this is a bit of a more negative talk, but I do want you guys to know that I do care about you guys. And I like doing this stuff just so you know that I'm not just trying to, you know, it's not just like a freaking pep rally. It's not like a rah-rah thing, right? It's like I do want to really get some ideas in your guys' head that can be negative, because life is part negative, and it's an important part to just focus on that. Focus on where you're going to go. But before we get into the last thing we're going to wrap up, I'm going to do the question catapults. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please cast your questions over the castle walls, preferably for Thoughtful Thursday. Art questions, save those for Tuesday. If you have anything regarding like what we talked about today, or how you're going to design an awful life, let me know over there in the comments. And as we wrap up today's show, I would like to end on this note. Actually, I guess with two things. There's two things that I really want to talk about here. And the first thing is that it's very important to not kid yourself. Don't kid yourself. Really take a look at where your life is going and ask yourself, if I continue with the behavior and the habits that I am doing today, where is this going to have me end up in a year, 5 years, 10 years? Where are my current habits taking me? That's a really, really important thing to keep in mind. And it really can be as simple as, like, you don't need to go and change your whole life. But like I said, health, 20 minutes a day, right? Start learning how to cook a couple meals. Tiny, tiny little adjustments. You don't need to go out and revolutionize the entire thing, because I found that if you try to do that, if you try to hi-ho silver your way to the top, then your willpower is going to run out and you're just going to become cynical, right? So make tiny, tiny adjustments. Tiny, tiny adjustments. All right. Questions coming in, and then I will end on that last thought right there. So it's Fonda's asking, how do you overcome the struggle when you want to go to bed but have the urge to finish an art piece you have an amazing idea for? Want to draw so badly you can't fall asleep? And you start drawing until you realize the sun is shining. So Spondo, you're freaking awesome. I love you. I love that, because that's exactly how I feel some nights. Like, I will be going to bed and I'll feel so restless. I'll feel so anxious. And this kind of ties in with what I talked about last week. And that is, obviously, if you have, obligations, you got to be somewhere tomorrow, for your work, then, obviously you got to be there, right? And, sleep is going to be important. But the other thing that I want you to consider is that, like, what would actually happen if you did? Like, what would happen if you did just stay up all night? Like, no one's ever died from lack of sleep, except for that one kid that played, like, World of Warcraft for, like, 2 weeks straight. But other than that, a very rare case, nobody's ever died from a lack of sleep for one night, right? And I found that when I'm laying asleep, because this used to be something I used to struggle a lot with. I would lay there and I'd be very restless. And so what I told myself was that, all right, well, if my body isn't going to go to sleep, then I'm going to make it do something, right? I'm going to get up and I'm going to work. I'm going to get up and I'm going to paint, And I found that when I do this, my body tends to get very tired very quickly. It gets tired quickly. Or if I'm enjoying what I'm doing, then I'll just go on right in through the night. Because different people, again, this goes back to that tailoring, right? People will tell you that, oh, if you're responsible and a good person, you'll get up early, right? You'll get up at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, get started on the day, go for a little jog, right? That's what a good person does. But that is a poisonous rule and a poisonous philosophy that if you let that get into your head, again, that works for some people, but maybe it doesn't work for you. Maybe you're the person that likes to stay up all night and work until 6 o'clock in the morning. And that's what I do sometimes. And I want you to distance yourself from feeling that that's a bad thing. Because if it works for you and it gets you good results, then you stick with that. You better darn well stick with that. All right, moving on to Zanben. I feel comfortable with my ability to paint, but it takes much longer than I think it should. And you think it should. There it is again. Who's telling you how long it should take? Do you have any tips or exercise for building speed in your workflow? Again, it's like, who are you comparing yourself to? Where are you getting the speed that you feel like you should be going? If you go slow, then go freaking slow. It's like, nobody really necessarily cares. But if you do want to improve and like get your ideas out faster, compared to how you're doing it now, if you feel that it could be going faster, then that could be something that you could work on. Now, my best advice for that is to do lots of little sketches and get used to working and building with shapes, as opposed to, this is something that I talk about a lot, in a lot of my drawings, but Tristana is a good example here. If you go back and watch the last tutorial Tuesday and you watch the time lapse of how I created this, you'll notice that in the beginning, I'm drawing just very, very roughly. I'm laying out shapes and I'm trying to find flow in my piece. I'm not like zooming in and trying to draw this eye perfectly and then building off the hair and like at the same time trying to keep my lines clean. All right, I've developed a method that's taken years for me to kind of figure out the way that it works. A thing that I call line sculpting. Right? So know that perfecting your technique and finding what works for you will take time. And be careful with how you compare yourself and saying like, I feel like it's taking longer than it should. Because, again, you're not all the other artists out there. So be okay with taking time. All right. La, 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 la. 2 more questions. Sorry if I can't answer everybody's. Okay, Aliano. Okay, so what happens when you feel like you knew exactly what you wanted to do in life, but then woke up one day feeling like you weren't excited about it at all? Or when you feel like those things you want to do for yourself and the world won't even matter? Basically, the rest of negative or realistic thoughts. Okay. So the idea of, oh man, I want to be like a rock star. I want to be a musician. I want to be an artist and work for Blizzard Entertainment. Those are my thoughts, right? And then quickly I realized, oh man, but those guys are like really good. And like all these other people that I look up onto at DeviantArt, they're like way better than me, right? I think the best way to avoid these negative thoughts is to distance yourself for a little bit from the influences of people you look up to. distance yourself from me. Distance yourself from other people that you would compare yourself to on DeviantArt, because that's what I did. I looked at people on DeviantArt that I wanted to be like, and I just looked at their stuff for a little bit, and I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. I didn't know their names. I didn't know where they lived. I didn't follow their blog necessarily, and I just focused on my own thing. And then you know what happened? I was the guy that was working at Riot, and then those guys that I used to look up to, they were the ones sitting across the table from me, and I was interviewing them to give them a job. So it's interesting how when you stop trying to compare yourself and you start competing, right? Compete with your own, like what you're capable of and what your own style can be. I found actually helps. I've heard people refer to this as like the dark years, like creating dark years for yourself, where you become that brooding artist, and like explore for yourself. Don't worry so much about comparing yourself to others. Definitely take a look at other people's every once in a while. But again, don't get so caught up in like, okay, here's my latest piece. How does it stack up against this guy's? Oh, it's not good, because then it will impede you. All right, last question. Sorry if I can't take everybody's. Last question. That odd girl. Oh shoot, these are good stuff. That odd girl, I did take something from you earlier, so I'm gonna go to Leritos. Keenan Senpai, how do you know your portfolio is up to a company standard? Like, will they look at it, because it usually affects more than just, will they look at it and consider you for the job? Okay, things that will make you, okay, I'm going to tell you guys this right now. The way that I'm going for the KNKL show, going from here on out, is I'm going to start training you guys for things like, starting with this last daily and things before, but more now than ever. I'm going to start training you guys for things that these companies will look for in your portfolio, such as, hey, how do you create style? What's your knowledge of thicks and thins and color theory and design work? It's like, these are the things that companies want to see. And I think it's very important, now that I've been on the other side, to bring that knowledge back and give you guys a couple tips. So my main goal from here on out is to teach you guys, almost like teach you guys as my students, the things that these gaming companies really want to see in your work. So that's interesting that you bring up the portfolio, because my answer to that, Laritos, is I'm going to show you guys how you can bring your portfolios up to the standard that will get you noticed. All right. Sorry that I can't get to everybody's questions, but I am going to end on this note. And that is, it was something that I thought about right before I started this show. And that is, it goes to that thing that I said, the world doesn't owe you anything. But here's the interesting thing about that. The world, I've found, is a very selfish thing. It will never really truly give you anything out of entitlement. Just because you're alive and a human being doesn't really guarantee you anything. You might get lucky here and there. You might have something happen to you. But overall, the world actually doesn't owe you anything, and is never going to give you anything. The world is a selfish place. But here's the interesting thing, is that the world actually is a very giving place. It's a very giving place. It's a balance. It's an interesting balance that the world has created for itself. But I've found that you always have to be the one to take the first step. You always have to be the one to take the first step. You have to be the one to put something into the world. You have to be the one to bring something to the world, add value to a corporation or a relationship or your health. You need to put something in there before the world will give something back to you. And when you do that, I found that the world repays you tenfold. I found that it repays you more. It's an investment. You invest and you get back more than you pay that you put in. But if you don't put anything in, you're not going to get anything out. So I want you guys to consider that as you go forward. Remember, tailor. The biggest thing I want you to take from this is tailor philosophies, tailor ideas to you. Don't just listen to me. Don't just listen to other people about what they think your life should be, because only you know what your life should be. So take all this advice, take all these ideas, and think, how can this be applied to me? How can I make this my own thing? Customize. Customize your life, customize your philosophy. Do the things that feel really natural and good to you, because that's what I've done. And lately I've been feeling really good. I've been feeling much better now that I'm not trying to compare myself to what this other person says I should have done, right? Even though they're successful, even though that person is successful, right? And I could model after them. Again, there's a lot of philosophies and things that work for them that I must tailor and integrate to be a part of my life. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I would like to end today's show. Thank you guys so much for joining me live on Twitch as usual. People on YouTube, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. I will see you guys. You guys have a great weekend, first of all. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday, where we will be continuing learning about things that can help you out with getting into the video game industry, things that people will be looking for in your portfolio. And I'm going to be teaching you guys that. That is my new commitment to you guys. And with that, we're going to go ahead and end. So I will see you guys next time. Until then, take care.